Hi, I'm Noah Morrow. I'm the current VP of Marketing Communications for JCI Santa Clarita, and you are currently watching the Secrets of Tomorrow's Leaders podcast. I am joined today by two outstanding community leaders and visionaries in the Santa Clarita community. Cindy Castillo. She is the founder of La Paz Wellness, certified exercise and nutrition coach, and like I said, a community leader. I'm very grateful to have you here today. And I'm also joined by Kennedy Gelnet. She is an athlete, a marathon runner, the director of the 16th annual Mardi Gras Madness event, and the director of membership for JCI Santa Clarita. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I want to start off by first of all highlighting what we're going to talk about today, which is the JCI Wellness Expo. This is the first ever JCI Wellness Expo that both of you guys founded. And I want to know, Kennedy, what does wellness mean to you personally?
Great question. Thought about this a lot over the last couple of days. I think wellness to me ultimately means balance. And what I mean is being in alignment with yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And when you find that balance and that alignment, so much good things come from that. Not just for yourself, but also how you show up in the world and how you show up for others.
No, I love that. I think that aligns very much with like how I view wellness personally. Yeah. Cindy, what about you? How do you, what does wellness mean to you personally?
Honestly, a lot of what Kennedy was saying, I also find a lot of truth in that. I think for me, it is that spiritual alignment between like the bodies, the soul, the mind. And to Kennedy's point, when we take care of ourselves and we honor ourselves, and that looks different. It looks so different for everyone. But, figuring out what you need to show up as like your true authentic self is what wellness means, to me. And so my personal mission really is to just embody that every day. And although that's not going to look 100% every day, it's, showing up and trying and recognizing that things are going to be hard, but it's how we handle those hard things that determine like your level of wellness.
Oh, I love that so much. What would you guys say the Wellness Expo is all about? Let's start with you, Kennedy.
Actually, I think let's start with Cindy because okay. I want to give, first of all, Cindy all the credit for this event. She's the visionary behind the event. And she approached me probably, how long ago was that now? 3 months ago, 4 months ago, maybe?
Probably like March.
Yeah, she approached me quite a while ago and told me that she had this great idea for a wellness expo and wanting to bring together wellness leaders in the Santa Clarita community to put on a day to really just spread awareness about the different pillars and components of wellness. And I was so honored she thought of me to co-chair this event with her because it is something that I know means a lot to her, and it means a lot to me as well. So very honored to be her co-chair in this event and help bring this to life. But Cindy, you start with that.
Oh, that's so sweet, Kennedy. I love that. And no, honestly, I think, what this event and what I envisioned when I first approached Kennedy was a day of wellness. I think as community leaders and as young professionals, a lot of times we don't necessarily know how to like take care of ourselves, especially when, a lot of us are so ambitious and like we are trying to like, handle our things day to day. But I just wanted a day of wellness, and knowing the capabilities of like what JCI can do for not just the community, but like personally, I knew that this was like the way and the avenue to like go about it. And so essentially what my vision really is a day of come out, enjoy classes, have vendors, do activities. We're going to also have a charity softball game, which is going to be really fun, but it's a free event as well. So there's no like motives under it. It really is just, hey, Santa Clarita, come out, enjoy a day of wellness. And, this is something that I'm very passionate about. And I knew Kennedy was also very passionate about health and wellness. So for me, I think it's more of like a personal mission at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, the expo is really about highlighting the different components of wellness. I think, and I know for me, a lot of times when I think of wellness, I think of physical wellness and what that looks like. And I feel like for me, physical wellness translates into my emotional and mental wellness. But wellness isn't just physical. And so I think another component of this was really wanting to highlight the different facets of it and getting people to understand that it's not linear and it doesn't look the same way for every person. So we're going to have something for everyone at this event, and we're excited to meet people where they're at.
I love that. Okay, so that kind of goes into my next question. How do you feel like wellness can help people feel more connected with others? And even more than that, like, how do you feel wellness can make you feel more connected to yourself, which then allows you to connect more with others?
I think a big part of kind of like what I mentioned earlier is when we heal ourselves and we take care of ourselves, we're able to show up as our best selves. And to imagine a world where, you know, everyone is somewhat healthy, like think of the magical things that could happen in a collective where everyone is able to thrive. So for this event specifically, again, it's free. So we're really trying to make it accessible to all. We want to utilize our local park, you know, have that partnership within our city, within our community, allow others to like visibly come out. And wellness, again, does mean so many different things for everyone. And back to Kennedy's point on touching on different pillars, we do want to have something for everyone. And a big part of this as well, too, is that a lot of times people don't even know the resources that are accessible to them. So being able to just have a day where vendors can come out, people can teach classes and be exposed to their direct community to help, you know, themselves and ultimately help the collective, I think is a major way that people can connect to wellness. I think that was like what your question was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, I went through some things mentally at the start of COVID that really rocked my world. And there was a period of time where my wellness was very out of alignment. I was not in touch with myself mentally, emotionally, physically. And so I think, again, this event we created is really meant to put visibility on not only the different pillars, but just the different experiences and the different walks of life that people go through. And I know this is so cliche, but I think it's important to acknowledge and recognize and just say publicly, like, it's okay to not be okay. And highlighting all of the different community resources we have available to help people get back on track, help people figure out what alignment looks like for them is important to us. And I would say that's, if we can do that even for just one person, it's going to be a successful event.
I love that. First of all, I want to say thank you to both of you for sharing and being so vulnerable. Kennedy, I highly relate to your story. That I feel that it almost aligns exactly with mine. Obviously, we have different experiences, but I want to acknowledge that, yeah, it is okay not to be okay. And I think when you do admit that to yourself, then you can heal.
Exactly.
Right.
It's the first step.
It is. And I think what I've found in my own personal life is by doing that, you're able to, one, do the work. And then when you do the work, you're able to kind of be a guide for others by just leading by example, like continuing to do that work. So that going into the next question, what do people have to look forward to at this event? And how do you think they can find, if you know, they're struggling, or even if they're not struggling, what do you think they can look forward to that can either keep them in alignment or put them back in alignment?
Great question. I would say what people can look forward to is there's something for everyone. Our plan and our goal is to have something for anyone of any age. And again, really highlighting that wellness is not just physical. It's mental, it's emotional. It's been really interesting to even just think about what wellness encapsulates. And Cindy's really challenged me on that of thinking outside of the box in terms of what wellness makes up. We had someone approach us about wanting to do a booth and do a talk about Medicaid and talking about the different options that are available for people as they age. But really their target audience is potential future caretakers, and prepping 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds for taking care of their parents and giving them the resources that they need to be able to cope mentally, spiritually, physically. So I think you can really look forward to maybe things that you didn't think about before and things that you maybe would never have thought would have pertained to wellness that you might get a different take and a different experience with.
Yeah, I agree with what Kennedy is saying. I think a big part of it also has to do with if you are open to the experience, you will definitely be inspired because, we don't know what we don't know. So if you come out to our day and you're taking classes and maybe it's the first time you ever take a Zumba class and now you're like, oh, wow, like I'm so open to this. And now you're getting this whole new experience. A lot of times people just aren't willing to take themselves out of that comfort that their day-to-day is. But, we have these dreams, we have these ambitions. The reality is a lot of times we do need support. We do need other resources that will allow us and support us through that journey. So I think they can definitely look forward to if with an open mindset, a day of community engagement, a day of new activities and honestly just new opportunities overall. I think if you come out to this event, you will not be disappointed.
And I think I'll just add to that really quick. I think once people admit that they're not okay or that they want to try new things, then the hardest part is then looking for, okay, what is out there? Where do I start? How do I do my research on this? And so we're doing the work for you for this event. We're bringing all of these resources for you. So all you have to do is show up. You don't have to do anything else. So I love that aspect of it as well, that we're bringing this to the community and there's no work required on their side.
I love that. And I think it also should be highlighted too, for anybody who is feeling hesitant to come out and who might not be doing okay, I'll be the first to tell you, I struggle with mental health at times, and life throws challenges, and it can get really hard, and I think that's the value really of event like this is that everybody's going there for that reason, right? We're all when you know that it's okay not to be okay amongst people who also know that and live that and are trying to achieve wellness and healing in their own life. I think the connections that you can make are so potent, I guess, for lack of a better. Yeah, very magical. There's so much room for growth that's created in that. Is there any I know you mentioned Zumba and you mentioned the booth for, is it Medicaid or Medicare?
Yes.
Are there any other activities that you would be open to sharing with the audience that they can look forward to?
Not confirmed yet.
Okay.
But we have a lot of great ideas, so stay tuned.
Awesome.
Once we do have our classes and our vendors locked in, we'll definitely be posting on our socials and making sure the message gets out there. We're also going to work with our vendors' marketing teams to ensure that they're circulating and posting on their pages as well, to give as much visibility as we can to what's going to be available on that day.
I love that. So speaking of kind of going back to the challenges that we all face, what were some of the challenges that you guys faced putting this project together? We can start with Cindy.
For me personally, coming back to getting outside your comfort zone and touching base on this is personal for me a bit. I think the biggest obstacle that I faced was having this idea. In my soul, I knew I want to create a day of wellness for my community. I see the vision. It feels so strong. I know that this is part of my bigger purpose in life. But a lot of times our ideas are just that, ideas. They just live in our brain. And so for me, the biggest obstacle was, hey, let me talk to our current president, see if this is something that's doable. Let me, talk to Kennedy, see if she's willing to be my co-chair. Let me talk to others to see if they're willing to be a part of this committee. Are other people interested in this? So for me, it really was, having like the self-trust and the self-confidence to know that like, hey, this idea is meant to come to fruition. So like it's not going to happen on its own. So like you gotta figure this out right now. Not right now, but you gotta action, right? Follow through with action. So for me personally, I think that was one of the bigger obstacles was, okay, how are you going to move this forward from idea to like actual event? I think another big obstacle for us too was, to your point, Noah, this is a brand new project. So we don't have, a business plan or anything. There's no blueprint, which is also exciting, right? Because Kennedy and I do get to kind of, oh, this works, this doesn't work. But that does also cost us time, and time is obviously expensive. So I think it's understanding the balance and recognizing that although, in my head or in Kennedy's head, we might have like a certain vision. It doesn't necessarily have to pan out like that, and staying flexible, staying adaptable, and being willing to not only understand, but genuinely like try to like take a couple steps back and recognize like, okay, at the end of the day, what is best for the collective and what is best for this project.
I love that.
Yeah, going off of what Cindy said, I think with any new project, when you don't have the blueprint, it's really translating idea to reality. And then I would say an additional component is really narrowing down wellness. I know we've said it a few times, but wellness really encapsulates so much. And so for Cindy and I, getting clear on what are the pillars we want to focus on, and then what's out there in the community. There's so many more wellness resources that exist than I think people even can fathom. And so really trying to identify what our ideal sponsor and vendor is going to look like was also a challenging component for us.
I love that. Your guys' values were just like projected very clearly. So I hope the listeners, if they didn't catch that, rewind like 2 minutes and you'll learn a lot about just how these women are balancing everything that they have going on in their life. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was how do you guys personally take care of yourself when so much is going on, when you're so ambitious, when you're such a visionary, you have so many ideas that you want to come to life, and you're so passionate about the community. What are some things that that you do that people could possibly implement in their own life that would add to their own wellness?
I think a big part of like my personal experience is really taking the time to get to know yourself. And so for me, I know that community is everything. Being first generation, it is ingrained in my soul, like I think of the collective first before I kind of like think of, myself. And a lot of times what that will manifest into is I take care of myself by attracting certain people into my life or putting certain people in positions that I know are here to help me. So for example, having either a fitness trainer or having my therapist or having like great friends and like scheduling times with them just to like talk, making sure that like, my day-to-day routines. And although, a lot of times people do think wellness is, oh, let me just like be physically active. And yes, those things are important, put that on your calendar, make time for yourself, go on a walk, get your workout in, meal prep. But at the same time, it's understanding, hey, like you're so tired that you might have to sleep like 10 hours and you're going to have to be okay with that. It's going to be, hey, like actually I can't hang out with you tonight. I have X, Y, and Z that needs my priority. So when you fully or somewhat understand yourself, I think it's easier to recognize the things that you need. And for me personally, I do lean into my community. I do lean into my family. I lean into like JCI. I lean into other pillars throughout my community that do support me as well. And that looks different for everyone, honestly. But for me, like that's the way I lead. And also like just being more of a holistic, deep human approach perspective person. I don't know how to put that, but understanding that like nothing is personal and everyone's going through their own stuff. And when you're able to recognize that, like, hey, we're all just human, like living on this planet, floating in space, like nothing is that serious. Like really
So
nothing
true.
is that serious. And when you're able to meet people at the human level, life just becomes so much easier for you. So for me personally, I think I like to lead more through like a holistic, deep human, like spiritual approach. And that might not be for everyone, but again, you know, that's okay, because the people that I do attract are some pretty amazing humans that I genuinely do want in my life. So that's, yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
I think can you repeat the question actually?
Yeah, so when you're like, for somebody who's super ambitious, which we obviously know you are as a marathon runner and just incredible community leader, and especially within JCI, like you literally just joined this year and you've done more than I've ever seen anybody do in JCI. So when you are just so driven, how do you balance that with taking care of yourself, and also how does that kind of go hand in hand?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I think it changes and it evolves as you grow and as you age. So I went through a really tough mental health battle, probably 2020 to 2022. And coming out of that, I gained a lot of tools and resources to help balance my mental and emotional. And I think it was about 6 months after I was kind of coming into alignment with myself and really felt like I had gotten to know myself on a much deeper level that I started running. And running has completely changed my life. It's given me not just a physical outlet, but it's given me mentally and emotional alignment. Like it's a full body, mind, soul alignment for me. I know that sounds weird, but it's
I
true.
totally get
It's it just it's given me so much. It gives you discipline. And I can't even stress enough how important that is in my life now. But in terms of being ambitious and how you prioritize yourself, I think it really comes down to ruthless prioritization. And I use this in my job as well. So I feel like it translates to all aspects of my life. But if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And at the end of the day, you should always be your number one priority. If you're out of alignment, if something's not right with you, you can't prioritize or do anything for anyone else. So that's always kind of stayed as my guiding star. I would say the other thing that's really changed for me this year has been joining JCI and having community. I don't think I've ever in my life had community like I have in this group and with these people. And it's so nice to be around people who are equally as ambitious and equally as driven. That's really done something for my soul and my spirit that I can't fully articulate yet, but it's honestly changed my life. So I'm super grateful for that. And I think that's why it's so easy for me to dive in here and want to do so many things because it really does fill up my cup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're
it really
inspired.
feeds your soul. Like
it does.
that's what I found with joining JCI as well, was like I had community in the past, but when I was much younger, so to be just more mature, to know who I was, and,
Right.
and then to have a community at that point was just so much different. And I find this is something that I wanted to talk about, which I think a lot of people struggle with, especially people who are extremely caring and empathetic. They think being selfless, like they think being selfish is not a good thing. And I think it goes back to like a balance, like and the intention. Why are you being selfish, right? So like everybody in JCI that I've seen, they're selfish in order to be of interest to the community, like in order to serve, because you can't pour from an empty cup, like you said. And I think that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. And I think a lot of leaders go through that when you're just when you naturally are just guided towards being a leader, you deal with that. So I'm curious, what what role does community play in wellness for you guys?
I would say for me, it's everything. And I don't think I realized what a role it played in wellness until, like I said, this year. Yeah, JCI has really transformed my opinion and shaped my opinion on the role that community plays in my overall wellness. Because I think it's not just being around people, but being around people that share your passion for community. They share your passion for wanting to better yourself. And again, it's not selfish to want to better yourself or prioritize. That's literally how we function as human beings, and stay healthy and stay of sound mind is by prioritizing ourselves. So for me, community has been everything for my mental, emotional, physical well-being this year. It's really been transformative for me.
I agree with a lot of almost everything that Kennedy is saying. I think that, regarding this Wellness Expo, it would not be happening if it was not for the community. Like, this event is being created for the community specifically. And almost a big part of me believes that being selfish can be an act of self-love. Yeah. When you're able to kind of assess and be like, okay, these are the things I do want to work on. And, what is that drive that you want to work on those things? If it's coming from a place of like, oh, I want to make the world a better place, or I want to be a better person, or I genuinely just want to give back to my community, then that is a great reason for you to like set boundaries, take care of yourself, because you guys are totally right. Like, you can't pour from an empty cup, And a lot of times when we do see people pouring from an empty cup, it can get scary, and it can do more harm to the world than good. So I think for me personally, community is the bridging gap. It is why we're doing this. It is, not just as community leaders, but I think also just like in our own personal worlds, like wellness and community go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think going off quickly at what Cindy said, I think it's an act of love to others to prioritize yourself and be selfish, because then you're showing up differently for other people and you're showing up differently for your community. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing.
I agree.
And it doesn't have to be like anything scary, because you can honestly communicate that. Like, hey, I have to take care of me right now. I can help you X, Y, and Z, or I can show up for you at this time. And, if that person really rocks with you, like, if anything, they were encouraged that. They empower you to take care of yourself. Because to Kennedy's point, like, you don't want people around that are going to get upset because you have to take care of yourself. You want people around that are going to say, I get that and I love that, and call me when you can.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've really learned a lot from Cindy in that regard. She's really such a great example of that, and really consistently reminds me that that has to stay the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So
I appreciate you.
I love that, you guys. And from personal experience too, there are sometimes relationships that you have in life where when you do decide to take that time for yourself for self-loving and self-caring reasons, they don't take too well to that. And I just want to say personally, like, as just a form of encouragement and also like a self-affirmation, is it's okay to say no. Like, it's okay to say no without feeling guilty, too. Like, if it's for your well-being and the intention is taking care of yourself in order to serve yourself and the community at the highest possible standard that you hold, then it's always worth it, right? That's always worth it, I think. So
absolutely,
it's definitely okay to prioritize yourself in situations where maybe you're feeling a little burnt out, or maybe things are just wearing a little thin at the time. You have too much going on. Like, it's okay. So Kennedy and I, we just got back from the board retreat this past weekend, and you ran us through an incredible training. And in that training, one of the pillars that stood out to me, which was that trust as the foundation of basically like a team pyramid, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to know how how this event, how you guys think this event could build trust amongst the community and JCI.
Ooh, great question, Noah. Do you want to start?
I feel like JCI already has such a strong presence in the city of Santa Clarita. And to a certain extent, there is a lot of brand awareness and a lot of trust already instilled in the community, especially when it comes to the type of events and initiatives that, we put on as community leaders. I think specifically when it comes to like this wellness expo, one, it being free and for everyone and for the community, it really is a moment of, hey, even though things can be hard and things are not okay, like we are still showing up for you and we still want to be here for you. And at the end of the day, I feel like those are some of the underlying pillars that you see in trust. It's how can I trust that, this is going to work out for me, or that, this is right for me, or whatever it is that you're kind of going back and forth with. But I think specifically the bridge between the community and trust in JCI, it's that we will continue to show up. And we're not saying that this is going to be like the absolute like number one event of like the city, but I think that if people are willing to give us a chance and come out and show up and see what Kennedy and I and the rest of the committee have been putting together, it is a moment of building a stronger relationship.
How do you follow that? I agree with everything that Cindy said. And I think the other element of it is JCI is continually trying to think of new ways to serve the city of Santa Clarita and new ways to highlight the outstanding individuals and outstanding businesses that exist in the community. So I think it's just furthering our goal as an organization to be community centered, but also to be innovative with our approach and to also try to reach different groups of people that might not typically come out to different events. So I think that's the other element of it that we're hoping to achieve as well.
Yeah, I love both, like all of the points that you guys brought up. Cindy, something that stood out to me was how showing up just by itself can build trust. And I know for me personally, I'm sure you guys could speak to this, admitting that you're not okay and still showing up for yourself is probably the number one thing that builds self-trust. And I think without self-trust, there's no trust in... You can't build trust in the community or with anybody else. And so I think that's something that I just wanted to highlight that.
And I think the hardest part too is like looking at yourself and saying, I'm not okay. Yeah. And accepting that is also what will help build that self-trust of like, okay, wow, like maybe I'm not okay. Like maybe I don't have it all figured out. And then once you kind of are able to detach, honestly, like the ego from yourself at that point, you're able to kind of be like, okay, this isn't even personal. Like, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? Like, what genuinely brings me joy? Like, what, you start having different conversations with yourself. The conversations aren't, cynical or like, oh, I need to be better. Or like, oh, why is this happening to me? It's more so, okay, like what am I learning from this? Or how can I handle this differently? And like slowly but surely, you just start building this self-trust with yourself. And then ultimately you're just like kind of vibing on your own little high frequency. And, you're next thing you know, you're like in a completely different world and it's still you, but it's such a different version of you. So like to Kennedy's point, during COVID, when she was really going through it compared to like now, I'm sure that level of self-trust there is probably just so much deeper and so much more like loving and, not to like take this an extra step, but it's almost like healing of the inner child, right? Yeah. When, you're able to trust that you are safe, that everything is going to be okay. You are that free, careless, happy child that just thinks that like everything is so amazing. But it's when we start exposing, or we are being exposed to different experiences or different situations that make us kind of scared of the world. So as adults, I think it's even more of a priority to honestly really understand, okay, who am I as a person? Like, what are the things that make me hurt? But then also, what are the things that make me joyous? And again, like prioritizing that.
Yeah. And I think the other component of my training I did this weekend is accountability. And I think once you discover yourself and are in alignment with yourself, it's also holding yourself accountable and checking yourself often. I know that that's something that I have to do with myself, and I have these little check-ins with myself, and it's valuable.
Yeah, I relate 100%. I think that's, one thing I can share personally that helps me with my own healing and wellness is journaling. I wake up every single morning and I journal 3 pages.
Wow.
And it's just centered around that, like holding myself accountable. Because again, I think something that I thought was really cool about that pyramid was that it all feeds each other. Like every single pillar feeds into the next.
Yeah.
And it's just a revolving cycle. Like, and going back to inner child work is like, once you get in touch with your inner child, that healing process is never ending. Like you're always there. It's like you're just cradling your inner child throughout life. You're like, I got you. Like, you know what I mean? And what I've learned is just to invite that into just the natural rhythm of life. Like, and to suspend like, oh, you're struggling with these things because of what you went through in childhood. And there's insecurities that happen because of that. And that's natural, not looking at it from a place of judgment, but looking at it from a place of just pure acceptance. Because once you can do that, then you can start holding yourself accountable instead of trying to be perfect, right? Because being perfect's an illusion. I think
100%.
everybody knows that saying, like, nobody's perfect. But I think it's, for me, what I found is having the courage to be my imperfect, authentic self is really what allows me to serve in the most just genuine way. And I've seen that have such a big impact on myself, my family, my friends, my community at large. I'm curious, do you guys have a similar experience with that?
I loved everything you were saying, Noah, because I think a big part of what you are touching on is the social constructs that give the illusion that there is perfection out there. And when we're able to detach from that and kind of like wake up to the reality that like, oh, wow, like actually we're all uniquely different and that's on purpose, and everyone has like their own like weaknesses and strengths, and every single person has a different purpose on this planet. It allows you to like be that true authentic self. And for me personally, honestly, being my true authentic self is like such an act of rebellion for me. Like for me, it's, why would I want to, change myself or like try to fit into certain boxes when clearly these boxes can't even understand like the vibe that I'm trying to bring,
Right.
So for me, it's more so, it's kind of like Animal Planet, like, or Animal Crossing, like, let me just create my own little island and world over here. And, you're building your garden and you're attracting these butterflies. But a lot of times what we do see is like, no, I'm going to go down this path because that's what society thinks is good. And so I want to follow that. And we see it everywhere. We see it, in wellness, the beauty standards that are placed within like women, or the masculine identity that like, men are supposed to like have, or, don't talk about your feelings here, but it's okay to talk about your feelings there. And so once you're able to kind of like wake up to, okay, wait, none of this actually matters. And at the end of the day, like it really is just the relationship between me and myself. And, that is like your younger self with your current version, but as well as like that version of you that is ambitious, does have dreams, and how do you honor that person? You don't even have time to like wonder what other people are thinking or doing, because you're just so inspired to like continue pouring into yourself and like becoming your best self, And also I think becoming your best self can at times be a little bit like a little bit toxic, because it's saying that like, yo, you are not perfect the way you are right now. And like, that's not true. It's like, you are exactly where you are meant to be. So I think, again, coming back to that inner child A lot of times we look for parenting outside of us. But I think what you were saying, Noah, with like it's a never ending relationship, you really are like self-parenting yourself. And a lot of times when, because I get triggered all the time, and I have to practice like emotional regulation, and I have to be like, okay, you can't just like pop off, because one, you are a professional, you are a community leader. Like, people are looking at you to kind of like help lead and guide the path, and leadership looks so different, right? Sometimes it is like, hey, I'm running the show and we're all going together, or sometimes it is, hey, let me sit back and like empower others, encourage others to really show up. And so I think when you're operating from a place of, yes, things are important, but things can be fluid, and understanding that things are going to happen regardless, and we're all just here trying to figure it out, trying to do our best, and like leading with kindness, it will take you, that next step. It will allow, again, I think, for you to do self-healing, and ultimately as a collective heal as well. That was a lot, but
no, thank you so much for sharing. That really resonated.
That was great. I think for me, part of kind of what led to my mental, emotional situation I went through was failure. Failure used to be something I really struggled with.
To that.
Yeah. And my whole life was just centered around, you set a goal and you achieve it. Like there's no room for failure. And I experienced some massive failures coming out of college and really figuring out where my life was going to go, how things were going to be directed. And it really sent me into a spiral and into a really dark, hard place. And so I think something for me that I do is, and how I've kind of reframed failure, is redirection. And just understanding and knowing that there's a different plan for my life and there's a different direction I'm supposed to be going. So for me, it's really been about reframing failure to redirection and knowing that something better that's more in alignment for me and myself and my journey in life is how I should be looking at things and the perspective I should have.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, you guys. What that brought up a lot for me, actually. So I do want to touch on it, and I really relate to the idea. Like I would probably consider myself like a recovering perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, maybe, if that's a thing.
I feel that.
But I would I would set goals, and then I would tie my self-worth to whatever the result would be. And something I learned that was just probably one of the most valuable things I've ever learned in my entire life is that nothing external gets to determine your self-worth. Like it's called self-worth, right? Like for a reason. And I think I for so long, and it still happens, like I still become aware of it when those thoughts arise, but thoughts arise and I'll have thoughts like, man, like I'll finally feel like good enough when blank happens. And it's like, what if I just reframe that as like, I'm enough already? And achieving that would be pretty cool. Like, kind of just like easing the emotional toll that has on you. And I think so many people deal with that, whether that's from, just self-determination or from societal expectations or familial expectations. Like, I think regardless of what it is, I think it's really important to understand, like, nobody besides you determines that. Exactly. And that's been something like, that's just, it's been like, I've saved myself in a sense. And something I have been working on recently is inner child work, which I've told you guys about.
Yeah.
And my therapist said something to me the other day, which like blew my mind, and I'm glad to share it on here. But I lean heavily into spirituality,
Same.
to get through, like, because stuff's just tough.
Yeah.
And she said to me, she goes, "Your inner child doesn't need a savior; it needs you."
Wow.
She goes, "It needs you present. It needs you rooted. It needs you reverent, and it needs you to be honest."
Wow.
That's all it needs. And it's it really shined the light that like healing for me didn't just start in therapy. Like it started when I was born.
Yeah.
And I think that is the case really for everybody if they like get that deep into their psychological like wounds. Is like it all does happen the way it's meant to happen, but there's a sort of surrender that needs to take place of like, what are we really in control of? And I think I've seen such a dramatic shift in my own mental health from being able to be like, I'm not in control of the thoughts, the feelings that come up.
It's freeing.
I have no idea what's going to happen on any day, but I do have control over how I respond to them.
Exactly.
So it's like developing the awareness and cultivating that space within the self to be able to like separate, like you said earlier, separate the ego or the desires, like the constant like pull that you feel internally from your true self. And being like, okay, is this meant for me? Like, you can lead with curiosity, right? Like, like you said, like, you vibe on your own, like, high frequency, and you're just like, all right, like, I've come to understand being misunderstood is not a bad thing.
At all.
It's not. Like, my friend yesterday actually told me, he's like, dude, like, I really want you to lean into that. So I told him, I was like, the more work I do on myself, dude, like, it's so weird. The more misunderstood I feel.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's beautiful, man. I really want you to lean into that. And I was like, wow, that's so validating.
Yeah.
That's so validating. Because I think we all go through periods where we're really just trying to like piece together a puzzle.
Yeah.
And just because we don't see it doesn't mean like somebody else can't help guide us to piece that together for ourselves. And I think that's really why I wanted you guys to come on and to have this podcast, is because I think this event is such a beautiful place for people to do that for themselves, or even to become aware of whatever their puzzle might be, and discover like all the cool people that are in Santa Clarita, all the cool people in JCI that really, really care about the community and care about healing, health, and wellness. So yeah, I'm in absolute awe of you guys. I think the work that you guys are doing is genuinely so important and so incredible, and it takes a lot of courage just to come on here and like just speak your truth. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you, Noah.
Yeah, thank you, Noah.
No, of course. And did anything like, I'm curious, did anything happen during like the planning phase of this event that reminded you like why this kind of event is so important?
I mean, a lot has happened since I think we started this event. You know, I think something, Noah, that you touched base on was when we're going down a path, and a lot of times we set all of this like ambition and stress, and, you know, we want to fight so hard to make something happen. And then, you know, there's a level of you that kind of says like, let me surrender and like, let me just see how it goes. I think that really plays into the, you know, life, enjoy the journey, not necessarily the destination. Right. Yeah. And so a lot of times for me personally, when we first started this event and planning, you know, I had a certain vision in my head, and everyone kept asking me like, okay, what's the vision? What's the vision? Tell me about your idea. And I remember answering everyone. I think you and I were at a social too, where, you know, everyone was asking me like, okay, what's the vision? And I really leaned back and said, I want everyone else to bring their ideas to this, because at the end of the day, you know, I can have a vision in my head, but I know that's not the way it's necessarily going to happen. And by allowing myself to like surrender to no, like, you know, let me see who is willing to help. And as a leader, I think it's so important to really and, you know, as a positive leader, I think it's important to uplift others and find others' strengths and really encourage them to like capitalize on that and like figure out what those strengths are to their full fruition. So I think the weirdest thing that happened for me was that internal shift of let me surrender. I've done such a big part now in, you know, telling people about this idea, telling the universe like, okay, yes, like I'm down to commit to this. Let me see this into full fruition. And so through that surrendering, I think the internal shift was probably like the weirdest thing for me, because now it's, Kennedy and our like game time, how are we moving forward? What are we locking in? What are we doing? And so we're like in the middle of this now. So nothing like specifically like, oh, this happened. But I think for me personally, it was more of that internal shift of let me surrender, let me help uplift others, help uplift my community, and we'll just see what happens, And I'm very excited for game day. I think it's going to be a beautiful event. I've already seen so many different ways that we've pivoted, the charity softball game being one of them. We had this like vision that it was going to be on a certain day at a certain park. This was going to be the flow of it. And now it's at a completely different location on a completely different day. We're having total different conversations. A big part of it also back to encouraging and empowering others to like show up as, themselves and as, leaders in their community and in their world, is like figuring out, okay, what are you good at? What do you want to do? And how can your strengths and your skill sets only like benefit this project? But to that, it's also amazing to see other people on our committee being like, I don't know anything about this, but I want to support and I want to help. And, the cool thing about JCI is that we're able to kind of like pair people together and be like, hey, like you don't know anything about this, but this person knows everything about this. So like now let's work together and let's make it happen. And again, there is no, oh, it has to be this way or it has to be that way, because I think both Kennedy and I are in this space of, we trust that this event is going to be amazing no matter what. And like we will be attracting the right people that want to genuinely see this project come to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say we're still very much in the weeds of planning. So I think we'll have some great lessons learned and takeaways once we get to the other side of this. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what Cindy said. I think it goes back to what you said about being a recovering perfectionist. Accepting redirection and just handling it with grace, and communicating effectively with others and allowing them and helping them just kind of roll with things as well. And then I would say the other component is helping people tap into their talents and their skill sets and giving them the autonomy and authority to make decisions has been I wouldn't say that's a challenge, but it's definitely been a new motion for me and something that I've been very excited to embrace. So
That's so important. That's so important. What, like, impact has been something that's a big word for me. Just with everything I do, like I tend to ask myself, like, okay, what impact is this gonna have on me, on the people around me? So that's a question I want to ask you guys. What impact do you hope that this event has on the people in this community?
Yeah, I would say it goes back to what we started with. Even if we just help one person to discover something that would help them with their internal alignment, physically, mentally, or spiritually, or emotionally, I think that we would consider that a success. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So I think for me, it's giving visibility to resources, giving visibility to these community vendors and sponsors that maybe don't get the exposure that they need. I think that's really our biggest goal, is to give exposure, give visibility, kind of connect the dots for people. I know for me, when I really started tapping into my own personal wellness journey, I just didn't know where to start. I didn't know the different resources that were out there. I didn't know that certain things could be connected emotionally as well as physically. So I think there's so much unknown when it comes to wellness, and it can be very daunting to know where to start and where to tap into. So I'm excited that we're bringing everyone together in one space and one event, and we're removing the barrier of where do I start. So I would say that's what we're hoping for, and we're expectant that it's really going to connect the dots for people.
I agree 1,000% to Kennedy's point. I think we really are the bridge. We want to just bring the business community out, say like, hey, share your services, like let others see what you're about. And then we're bringing out the community and saying like, hey, all these people are willing to like support and to be a part of your personal like healing journey. So it really is connecting the dots, being that bridge. So the impact it makes is just a day of wellness, a day of like healing, a day of uplifting the community and the collective as a whole. Just to like, I mean, Santa Clarita is already such a great place to start off with. So like for us to be able to bring an event and only try to make it better, I think that is also a win within itself.
I really connect to the idea of being a bridge for others. That's something that I've been pondering for a little while now. Of just, again, like, I realize that the only way to do that is to fill your cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And this is kind of a similar question, but a little different. What is like one dream that you guys have for how this event could grow in the future?
I would love, okay, I'm a manifest right now. I would love to see JCI Wellness Expo Day to have a partnership with like the city of Santa Clarita. I would love for it to be, you know, an event, not a national event, but maybe like a city event, you know, like we see it with concerts in the park. We see it with like Eat, Drink Local. We see it with all these other different events. And, you know, although those events are also amazing on their own, I think what we're really trying to bring is like wellness. And so for me, like the big goal, the big dream in the long run would be to have, you know, partnerships, strong partnerships that are in alignment with our vision, with, you know, wellness, all pillars, and just kind of have that foundation set. So this is something that can happen every year. And, you know, people can just pick it up and within like JCI as well, just like pick it up and like execute it and make it happen. I think that would be really cool to see that partnership.
Yeah, I would say very similar to Cindy. I think we're hoping that we're creating the blueprint for a future legacy project and for something that is really going to inspire future leaders to want to pick up year after year. And then additionally, I think that my future goal is that we can potentially create a kids wellness day and then maybe a more adult wellness day that's more class focused. But I think wellness for kids is vital and something that's really missing in our society today. So starting kids on that journey early, I think is critical.
I agree. Yeah. Is there anything that I did not cover that you guys would like to address?
You asked great questions, Noah.
That was very
thought-provoking. Yeah. Appreciated it.
That was the intention.
Yay.
You know, I feel like.
Honestly, I expected nothing less from the situation. No, honestly, thank you for the conversation. I think ultimately, you know, we invite everyone that's listening to this to come out, enjoy the day with us. It's going to be fun. We're going to have classes, vendors, activities. There's a lot of people who are working on creating this day like a success. And again, it's free, and our main goal and intention is just to like bring out a day of resources, community, and like healing. So if any of that sounds interesting to like anyone, come out. You're more than welcome. Like this space is created for you.
Yeah. October 18th, Plum Canyon Park, 9 to 2. We'll see you there.
We'll see you there. Thank you guys again for just showing up. One, for yourselves, for the community. You guys have a huge impact. Definitely this conversation was truly just valuable for me. That took away a lot. I'm definitely gonna go reflect, probably journal.
I love it.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much. Thank you all the listeners for tuning in. I hope you got as much as I did out of this, and yeah, please come out and join us for the JCI Wellness Expo. And we'll see you in our next episode. Thanks for joining Secrets of Tomorrow's Leaders.
Goodbye.